Before empires rose in stone, there was only wind. Before Rome ruled the world, before the Ottomans marched west, a storm was gathering in the east.
How did scattered tribes become the largest land empire in history?
Around 1162, on the cold Mongolian steppe, a boy was born. His name was Temujin.
Legend says he was born clutching blood, a sign of destiny.
His father, Yasuge, was a tribal chief. Life was harsh, but his family was strong. But enemies surrounded them. One night, his father was poisoned. But deadly. Temujin was only 9.
Without a leader, the tribe abandoned them.
They ate roots, wild berries, whatever they could find.
Winter showed no mercy, and enemies watched.
Hunger turned brother against brother.
Temujin made a choice. He killed his half-brother. Survival had changed him. Soon, another trial came. He was taken prisoner. Bound with a heavy wooden collar. A slave among his enemies. By 1175, Temujin was no chief's son. He was a slave among his enemies. Under the endless Mongolian sky, his body was chained, but his spirit was not. One night, as the fire burned low, he saw opportunity. He ran, not knowing if freedom or death waited ahead.
Hiding beneath the river's surface, he became invisible to the world.
Death searched for him, only steps away.
But in a land ruled by fear, one man chose mercy. In that moment, a slave died, and something stronger was born. By 1178, the boy had returned to the steppe, but he was no longer weak. By 1178, Temujin returned to his family, not as a captive, but as a survivor.
His mother reminded him, a man without allies is already defeated.
In 1179, He began searching for allies. He offered something rare on the steppe, loyalty earned, not inherited. One by one, men chose to follow him. In 1180, he reunited with his childhood friend, Jamukha. They swore brotherhood beneath the eternal sky. They dreamed of uniting the tribes, of ending endless betrayal. His camp began to grow, not through fear, but through belief. On the endless steppe, a new kind of leader was rising. In 1180, Temujin married Berthe, a union promised years before. For a brief moment, the steppe felt calm. But in 1181, old enemies returned. The Merkit tribe struck without warning, and Berthe was taken. He had survived betrayal. But this loss cut deeper. When his wife was taken, he rode into war. In 1182, he called upon every ally he had earned.
They rode across the endless plains, not for land, but for honor.
The battle was swift and merciless. He brought her home and proved he would never kneel again. In 1182, beneath a frozen sky, Temujin faced his enemies once more. He did not hesitate. Arrows darkened the winter air.
Speed and discipline shattered larger forces.
Berthe was safe, but the war was not over.
Victory came swiftly.
In 1183, word spread across the steppe. Men began to choose him, not by birth, but by belief. Each victory brought followers. The tribes were still divided, but a new force was rising. By 1184, the bond between blood brothers began to crack. Temujin believed loyalty should be earned. Jamukha believed power belonged to the noble bloodlines. In 1184, Jamukha chose his own path. The steppe divided. Every tribe was forced to choose. In 1185, brother faced brother. The civil war began without mercy.
The land that raised them now drank their blood.
Friend became rival, and Mongolia burned. War hardened him. Mercy became rare.
The steppe was no longer divided by tribes. It was divided by destiny.
By 1185, the steppe had been torn apart by civil war. But one man remained standing. Those who once doubted him now watched in silence.
They chose him, not because of his blood, but because he survived.
In 1186, a new banner rose over the steppe. The broken tribes were becoming one force. The broken boy had become a leader. He would not stop here. He would unite the tribes, or die trying.
The world did not yet know his name, but it soon would.
In 1186, Mongolia was still divided.
But Temujin's camp was growing stronger.
Old tribal rivalries refused to die.
Temujin saw what others could not.
Unity was stronger than revenge. Instead of killing them, he offered them a choice. Serve with loyalty and be treated as equals. In 1188, he broke an ancient tradition.
Rank would no longer depend on birth, but on ability.
He reorganized his arm into units of 10, 100, and 1,000.
A new order was rising on the steppe.
In 1189, his followers declared him their Khan.
But Jamukha would not accept this.
In 1190, Jamukha crowned himself Borival Khan.
The steppe split into two powerful alliances. War between blood brothers was inevitable. In 1191, the steppe erupted into battle.
Temujin fought with strategy, not rage. Jamukha answered defeat with cruelty.
By 1192, tribes began to notice the difference.
Loyalty was shifting, and power was changing hands.
By 1193, Temujin was no longer defending. He was advancing.
Smaller tribes chose submission over destruction. In 1194, he shattered tradition. Rank would no longer be inherited. It would be earned. He rebuilt the tribes into units of loyalty, not blood.
By 1195, discipline replaced chaos.
But his enemies were not finished.
In 1206, the new empire began to take shape.
He did not fear numbers. He trusted unity.
Strategy defeated size!
By the end of 1196, Temujin stood stronger than ever.
After the great victory of 1196, the balance of the steppe had changed. Across Mongolia, tribes watched carefully. Many chose loyalty before war reached them. Jamukha's power began to crumble.
But pride refused to surrender!
In 1199, the rivals met once more.
The battle was swift and ruthless. By 1200, Jamukha's power was shattered. Temujin now commanded the largest force on the steppe. The tribes were nearly united, and a new destiny was forming. In 1201, Temujin's enemies gathered for one final attempt.
They crowned Jamukha, Gurkhan, the Supreme Khan.
A massive coalition rose against Temujin.
His forces were smaller, but united. In 1202, the Mongolian steppe exploded into war.
During the battle, Temujin himself was wounded. But his warriors refused to retreat. Rising again, he led the final charge!
By 1203, the coalition shattered.
Jamukha, once Temujin's brother, now rode alone.
By 1204, Temujin began the final campaign to unite the steppe. Across Mongolia, his army marched without fear.
One last powerful tribe stood in his way. In 1204, the steppe witnessed another brutal battle. Temujin's strategy crushed the final resistance.
Their leaders fled, their power destroyed. In 1205,
two former brothers met for the final time. Jamukha asked for an honorable death, and Temujin granted it. By 1205, the Mongolian tribes were finally united. In 1206, the tribes of Mongolia gathered for a historic council.
the great council of the steppe had begun.
The decision was unanimous. The man who united the tribes was called forward.
On that day, Temujin became Genghis Khan.
A new empire had been born.
The warriors of the steppe now followed one ruler.
He created new laws to unite the empire.
The world had never seen such unity from the steppe. But uniting Mongolia was only the beginning.
In 1206, the new empire began to take shape. Genghis Khan built a powerful military system.
In his empire, loyalty mattered more than noble birth.
A network of messengers connected the growing empire.
The Mongol army became the most disciplined force of its time. But unity brought ambition. Beyond the steppe, rich kingdoms awaited. In 1207, the Mongol army began to move. The world did not yet understand what was coming. A storm was rising, and soon it would sweep across continents. By 1207, the Mongol Empire began expanding beyond the steppe.
Many tribes surrendered before battle even began.
The Mongol army trained relentlessly. Scouts gathered knowledge of distant lands.
Every road, every kingdom was carefully studied.
The empire prepared for wars yet to come. By 1209, the Mongol army stood ready. Beyond Mongolia, powerful kingdoms awaited.
The storm of the steppe had begun to move.
And soon, the world would feel the power of the Mongols.
In 1209, the Mongol army launched its first campaign beyond the steppe.
Beyond the horizon, powerful kingdoms stood waiting.
The Mongols adapted quickly, even to siege warfare. The first cities soon felt the fury of the steppe. One victory led to another. Across Asia, rumors of the Mongols spread. The empire continued to grow. The army of Genghis Khan had become unstoppable. The world had not yet understood the storm approaching. This was only the beginning. Soon the Mongols would shake the world. By 1210, a new kind of armor ruled the steppe. Every warrior was trained from childhood. The Mongols mastered the deadly art of horse archery.
They could ride hundreds of miles without stopping. The horse was their weapon, their home, their survival.
Discipline made the Mongol army unstoppable.
Orders traveled instantly through signal flags.
Messengers carried commands across miles of chaos.
They moved faster than any army in history.
When the Mongols attacked, it felt like a storm.
They did not charge blindly. They surrounded. Every movement was planned.
They mastered the art of the false retreat.
The enemy believed they were winning. But the trap was already set. From every direction, arrows fell like rain.
A Mongol warrior could fire 6 arrows in seconds.
Speed defeated armor. Communication made the army unstoppable. This was not chaos. It was a machine.
Before the attack, they watched.
The enemy rarely knew they were coming. And when they came, it was too late. They darkened with arrows.
Sometimes, they let survivors go.
To carry a message. A warning that spread fear faster than the army itself.
Stories of the Mongols traveled across Asia.
An army that moved like lightning and struck like a storm.
Mongol warriors rode with many horses, changing mounts without stopping.
This gave them incredible speed.
They could travel farther than any army before them.
Every unit followed strict orders. Signals controlled the chaos of war. The Mongol army was disciplined. Every warrior was trained from childhood.
They attacked from every side. Sometimes, they pretended to flee.
Many armies believed they had won. They chased the fleeing Mongols believing victory was near.
But the retreat was a trap. Hidden warriors waited beyond the hills. Then the signal was given.
The riders turn! And the trap closed! The enemy was surrounded! Confusion became terror! The Mongols struck without mercy.
This tactic destroyed armies again and again.
In the chaos of battle, every signal mattered.
One signal, and thousands moved as one.
Fast riders carried orders between commanders.
Even arrows could carry messages.
A single signal could change the battle. The army moved with precise discipline.
Their enemies struggled to understand the strategy. They surrounded their enemies with patience.
Then the arrows came like a storm.
The Mongol war machine was unstoppable.
Stories of the Mongols spread across the trade routes.
They spoke of riders who appeared without warning.
City leaders began to fear the coming storm.
And soon, the dust of horses appeared.
The Mongol army had arrived.
Some cities prepared to fight. But many chose surrender instead.
Those who surrendered were often spared. But those who resisted faced destruction. Fear became the Mongols' most powerful weapon. The Mongol war machine kept moving west. Scouts mapped every road and river.
Orders traveled quickly across the army.
No mountain, no desert could stop them.
Powerful kingdoms prepared to resist.
But the Mongols surrounded their enemies like a storm.
The attack came with terrifying speed. Few armies could withstand their tactics.
world began to fear his name. Across the trade routes, a name was spreading. They spoke of an army that never seemed to stop.
Kingdom after kingdom fell before them. They fought in deserts, forests, and frozen rivers. And when the Mongols appeared, fear spread through the enemy ranks.
Many chose surrender over battle.
The Mongol Empire kept growing. The riders of the steppe were now unstoppable. And their leader had even greater plans.
By now, the Mongol army had become unstoppable.
They planned wars across entire continents.
Orders traveled faster than any empire had ever seen.
Kingdoms prepared for the coming storm.
But few armies could stop them.
The war machine closed in!
The empire continued to grow. Soon, it would become the largest land empire in history. The boy named Temujin had changed the world. But this was only the beginning of his conquest. After uniting the tribes, the Mongols turned toward a greater prize. Beyond the steppe stood powerful kingdoms. And the Mongols were watching. Every invasion began with careful planning. The attack on northern China had begun.
The riders of the steppe moved like a storm. China's armies prepared to resist.
The first attacks came swiftly. The Mongol assault had begun. And the war for Asia was underway. The Mongols faced a new challenge: massive fortified cities.
These walls had stopped countless armies before.
But the Mongols adapted quickly.
They forced captured engineers to build powerful siege weapons.
Soon, massive machines stood before the walls.
Fire rained down on the defenders. The city began to burn. slowly collapsed. The Mongols poured inside.
One more city had fallen to the Mongol Empire.
The Mongol army pushed deeper into China.
Every watchtower carried the same warning.
The Yuan Dynasty prepared for war.
Thousands of soldiers gathered to stop the invasion.
But the Mongols were already watching.
The attack came with lightning speed. Arrows darkened the sky. The battle turned into chaos. The Mongols surrounded their enemy.
Another army of the Yuan Dynasty had fallen.
The Mongols advanced toward the richest cities of northern China. Before them stood Zhongdu, the capital of the Jin Empire.
The city believed its walls were unbreakable.
But the Mongols were patient hunters. Soon, the city was surrendered. They prepared machines powerful enough to break any wall.
Fire and stone rained down upon Zhongdu. The great capital began to burn. The Mongols broke through the defenses.
The fall of Zhongdu shocked all of Asia.
The fall of Zhongdu changed the balance of power in Asia.
The Mongol army continued its advance.
Across Asia, the Silk Road carried wealth and power.
And now the Mongols were watching those roads. Soon, the great trade routes fell under their control.
Traders were forced to accept Mongol rule.
City after city joined the Mongol Empire. The Mongols now controlled the flow of trade. The empire was growing faster than anyone imagined. But even greater conquests were coming.
After securing China as northern lands, the Mongols turned west. Central Asia was rich with trade and powerful cities.
But the Mongols were already watching. The riders of the steppe moved quickly.
And soon, the cities saw the storm coming.
The Mongol army surrounded its next target.
The siege began.
The defenses began to crumble. The Mongols flooded into the city.
Another city of Central Asia had fallen.
सिल्क रोड के हर रास्ते पर अब मंगोल नजर रच रहे थे। हर गुजरने वाली चरावान को मंगोल हुक्म मानना पड़ता था।
टैक्स और ट्रिब्यूट ने सिल्क रोड को मंगोल कंट्रोल में ला दिया।
हर पहद और रास्ता अब मंगोल नाजर के नीचे था।
लेकिन फिर एक गलती हुई जो दुनिया के लिए तबाही बन गई।
मंगोल साफिर अमान का पैगाम लेकर आए,
मगर ख्वाराज़म गवर्नर ने उन्हें गिरफ्तार कर लिया।
यह फैसला मंगोल कानून के मुताबिक एक बड़ा जुर्म था। जब खबर गेंघिस खान तक पहुंची,
उसने बदला लेने का फैसला कर लिया।
1219 में मंगोल फौज ख्वाराज़म एम्पायर की तरफ रवाना हो गई।
हर शहर और हर रास्ते पर पहले ही स्ट्रैटेजी बन चुकी थी।
मंगोल फौज एक नहीं, कई हिस्सों में तकसीम होकर हमला करती थी।
ख्वाराज़म के सिपाही दूर से आने वाली तूफान जैसी फौज को देखकर घबरा गए।
यह सिर्फ जंग नहीं थी, यह एक एम्पायर की तबाही की शुरुआत थी।
1220 में मंगोल फौज बुखारा शहर तक पहुंच गई।
बुखारा के लोग समझ गए थे कि खतरा दरवाजे पर खड़ा है।
मंगोल सिर्फ हॉर्स आर्चर्स नहीं थे, वो सीज वॉरफेयर भी जानते थे। जल्द ही बुखारा के दरवाजे टूट गए। बुखारा गिर चुका था और मंगोल फौज अब रुकने वाली नहीं थी। बुखारा के बाद अगला निशाना था समरकांद। समरकांद उस वक्त सेंट्रल एशिया के सबसे अमीर और मजबूत शहरों में से एक था। मंगोल फौज ने शहर को हर तरफ से घेर लिया। समरकांद के डिफेंडर्स तैयार थे, लेकिन मंगोल स्ट्रैटेजी उनसे कहीं ज्यादा पावरफुल थी। आसमान में आग के गोले उड़ रहे थे। उनकी डिसिप्लिन और स्पीड ने हर डिफेंडर को हैरान कर दिया।
जल्द ही समरकांद के दरवाजे टूट गए।
फिर शुरू हुई वो तबाही जिसे दुनिया कभी नहीं भूल पाई। समरकांद भी मंगोल एम्पायर के सामने झुक गया। लेकिन यह सिर्फ शुरुआत थी। एशिया अभी पूरा फातेह होना बाकी था।
By 1221, the armies of Genghis Khan had already conquered vast lands of Asia.
Now their eyes turned toward a new frontier, the lands of Russia.
The Mongol communication network allowed armies thousands of miles apart
to act as one.
In 1222, Mongol scouts reached the borders of Eastern Europe. For the first time, the princes of Kiev and Rus saw riders from the distant Mongol world. The discipline and speed of the Mongol army shocked everyone who saw them.
Messengers raced through the land, carrying news of an unknown invading army.
But the Mongol commanders had already planned every step of their campaign. In 1223, the armies of Russia gathered to face the Mongol threat.
The clash that followed would become known as the Battle of the Kalka River.
The princes of Kiev and Rus united their forces to stop the Mongol advance.
The Mongol commanders carefully studied their enemy's movements. Then the Mongols did something unexpected. They began to retreat.
Believing the enemy was fleeing, the Rus armies began chasing them.
For days, the Mongols lured their enemies deeper into the steppe.
And then, the trap was sprung!
Mongol cavalry surrounded the pursuing army from every side. Arrows rained down as Mongol horse archers attacked with deadly precision.
The Rus coalition began to break under the relentless attack.
The Battle of the Kalka River ended in a devastating defeat for the Rus armies.
After the defeat, the surviving soldiers fled in every direction.
Many princes and commanders of the Rus were captured alive.
The Mongol commanders decided to make an example of them.
The defeated leaders realized the power of their new enemy.
For the Mongols, the victory proved their dominance in battle.
People across the region began hearing terrifying stories about the Mongols.
Rumors spread even further through traders and travelers.
The fear of the Mongols slowly began spreading toward Europe.
Then, just as suddenly as they had appeared, the Mongols vanished.
After their victory, the Mongol army did not continue deeper into Europe.
Instead, the Mongol forces began their long journey back toward Asia. They had completed a massive reconnaissance of the western lands.
In the lands of Rus, the people slowly began rebuilding after the disaster. The princes tried to understand who these riders really were.
Stories of the Mongols spread slowly across Eastern Europe.
Many Europeans struggled to believe the terrifying reports.
To most of Europe, the Mongols were still a mystery. In 1227, the death of Genghis Khan changed the future of the empire.
But the Mongol expansion was far from over. In 1229, Mongol leaders gathered to choose a new ruler.
Genghis Khan's son, Ögedei Khan, became the new Great Khan.
Under Ögedei, the empire began planning new campaigns. Orders traveled quickly across the vast Mongol Empire.
Armies from across the empire were called together. The Mongol warriors prepared for another long campaign.
Once again, the Mongol armies began moving toward the west.
In 1235, a great council approved the invasion of Europe.
The Mongol armies began their march toward the lands of Rus again.
The next invasion would be far larger than the first.
In 1236, the Mongol invasion of Eastern Europe officially began. The first targets were the lands of the Volga Bulgars.
Mongol siege tactics quickly shattered city defenses.
By 1237, the Mongols advanced toward the heart of Kievan Rus.
Cities rushed to prepare for the approaching storm. The Mongol army soon reached the city of Ryazan.
Mongol envoys demanded tribute and surrender. But the rulers of Ryazan refused to submit.
The Mongol army quickly surrounded the city.
The siege of Ryazan had begun.
The Mongols attacked Ryazan with overwhelming force.
The defenders fought bravely to protect their city.
But the Mongol army soon broke through the gates.
The city of Ryazan was overwhelmed.
Ryazan became the first great city of Rus to fall.
In 1238, the Mongol army continued deeper into the lands of Rus.
Thousands fled their homes as the invasion spread.
The next target was the powerful city of Vladimir.
The city prepared desperately for the coming attack.
The Mongol army surrounded the city from every side. The Mongol assault on Vladimir began with relentless attacks.
The defenders fought bravely, but the Mongol army was unstoppable.
Soon the Mongols broke through the defenses.
The great city of Vladimir fell to the Mongol invasion. City after city across Rus began to fall. By 1239, the Mongol armies were pushing even further west.
Terrifying stories of the Mongol army spread across Europe.
Many kingdoms feared the Mongols might soon reach their lands. The Mongol advance seemed unstoppable.
The Mongol Empire was now standing at the gates of Europe.
In 1227, the death of Genghis Khan shocked the vast Mongol Empire. The greatest conqueror in history was gone, but his empire remained. The news spread quickly across the Mongol world. Mongol leaders gathered to decide the future of the empire. In 1229, a great council was held to choose the next ruler.
Genghis Khan's son, Ögedei Khan, was declared the new Great Khan.
Under Ögedei, the Mongol Empire continued to expand rapidly. The empire now stretched from the Pacific Ocean to Eastern Europe.
The Mongols began organizing the lands they had conquered.
But after the sudden death of Ögedei Khan, the empire faced another turning point. In 1241, the death of Ögedei Khan created uncertainty across the empire.
Mongol armies in Europe suddenly stopped their advance.
Commanders returned to the homeland to decide the next Great Khan.
Power struggles began among the descendants of Genghis Khan.
In 1246, Guyuk Khan was chosen as the new Great Khan.
But Guyuk's rule was short-lived. In 1251, Mongol Khan rose to power.
He reorganized the empire and launched new campaigns.
Mongke assigned great missions to his brothers.
Mongke Khan sent his brothers to expand the empire in different directions. Hulagu Khan was ordered to conquer the powerful kingdoms of the Middle East. A massive Mongol force moved toward Persia and beyond. Meanwhile, Kublai Khan was sent to lead campaigns in China. Hulagu Khan began destroying the strongholds of powerful enemies.
Kublai Khan began learning Chinese culture and governance. Hulagu Khan's army reached the great city of Baghdad.
The siege of Baghdad became one of the most famous battles of the Mongol era.
The once powerful Abbasid capital had fallen. While Hulagu conquered the west, Kublai Khan pushed deeper into China.
In 1259, the Mongol Empire launched another major campaign in China.
Great Khan Mongke personally led the campaign. Hyena!
But during the campaign, Mongke Khan suddenly fell ill. Soon, news spread that the Great Khan had died.
brothers now competed for control of the empire.
One of them was Kublai Khan.
In 1260, Kublai Khan declared himself the new Great Khan.
But not everyone accepted his rule.
The once unified Mongol Empire began dividing into powerful khanates. After years of conflict, the Mongol Empire began dividing into powerful regions.
One region became the Chagatai Khanate in Central Asia. In the Middle East, Hulagu's descendants ruled the Ilkhanate.
In Eastern Europe and Russia, the Golden Horde controlled the northern territories.
Kublai Khan ruled the eastern part of the empire. He began adopting Chinese traditions and administrative systems.
Kublai built a powerful new government in China.
The Mongols now ruled much of northern China.
Trade across Asia flourished under Mongol protection.
In 1271, Kublai Khan officially founded the Yuan Dynasty in China.
Kublai Khan officially declared the Yuan Dynasty as the new ruling dynasty of China.
Kublai Khan established his capital at the great city of Khanbaliq.
Mongol rulers began working with Chinese administrators to govern the empire.
Trade routes across Asia became safer than ever before.
Travelers from distant lands reached the court of Kublai Khan.
Great Khan, I am your humble servant from Venice.
Among them was Marco Polo, who later described the wonders of the Mongol Empire. Merchants from many cultures met and traded across the Mongol world.
The Mongol postal network connected cities across thousands of miles. This peaceful era became known as the Pax Mongolica.
For the first time in history, much of Eurasia was connected under Mongol rule. By the late 1200s, the Pax Mongolica connected much of Eurasia.
Merchants could travel thousands of miles under Mongol protection. Cultures and knowledge spread across continents. Trade expanded across both land and sea routes. After years in the Mongol court, Marco Polo began his journey back to Europe.
He carried stories of the powerful Yuan Dynasty to the west.
But the great ruler, Kublai Khan, was now growing old. After decades of rule, his reign was coming to an end. In 1294, Kublai Khan passed away. Even after his death, the Mongol legacy continued across Eurasia.
After Kublai Khan's death, the Mongol world remained divided into several powerful khanates.
The Yuan Dynasty continued ruling China for many years.
Trade routes remained active across the Mongol-controlled world. knowledge and culture continued spreading across continents. The Mongol era helped connect East and West like never before.
The Mongol conquests had once brought destruction, but also unity.
Historians began recording the story of the Mongol Empire. From humble beginnings on the steppe, the Mongols built the largest land empire in history. The legacy of Genghis Khan continued to shape the world.
The Mongol Empire changed history forever.
The Mongol Empire once stretched across the greatest land empire in history.
Their conquests brought destruction, but also connected civilizations.
In 1368, Mongol rule in China finally came to an end.
But the legend of Genghis Khan never faded.
From the endless steppe rose an empire that changed the world forever.
And even today, the echoes of the Mongol Empire still shape our world.